Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Chapter 5. The Golden Tickets. You mean people are actually going to be allowed to go inside the factory? Cried Grandpa Joe. Read us what it says, quickly. All right, said Mr. Bucket, listen. Evening Bulletin. Mr. Willy Wonka, the confectionery genius whom nobody has seen for the last 10 years, sent out the following notice today. I, Willy Wonka, have decided to allow 5 children, just 5, mind you, and no more, to visit my factory this year. These lucky 5 will be shown around personally by me, and they will see all the secrets and the magic of my factory. Then, at the end of the tour, as a special present, all of them will be given enough chocolates and sweets to last them for the rest of their lives. So watch out for the golden tickets. 5 golden tickets have been printed on golden paper, and these 5 golden tickets have been hidden underneath the ordinary wrapping paper of 5 ordinary bars of chocolate. These 5 chocolate bars may be anywhere in any shop in any street in any town in any country in the world upon any counter where Wonka's sweets are sold. And the 5 lucky finders of these 5 golden tickets are the only ones who will visit my factory and see what it's like now inside. Good luck to you all, and happy hunting. Signed, Willy Wonka. The man's dotty, muttered Grandma Josephine. He's brilliant, cried Grandpa Joe. He's a magician. Just imagine what will happen now. The whole world will be searching for those golden tickets. Everyone will be buying Wonka's chocolate bars in the hope of finding one. He'll sell more than ever before. Oh, how exciting it is to find one! And all the chocolate and sweets that you could eat for the rest of your life free, said Grandpa George. Just imagine that. They'd have to deliver them in a truck, said Grandma Georgina. It makes me quite ill to think of it, said Grandma Josephine. Nonsense, cried Grandpa Joe. Wouldn't it be something, Charlie, to open a bar of chocolate and see a golden ticket inside? It certainly would, Grandpa. But there isn't a hope, Charlie said sadly. I only get 1 bar a year. You never know, darling, said Grandma Georgina. It's your birthday next week. You have as much chance as anybody else. I'm afraid that simply isn't true, said Grandpa George. The kids who are going to find the golden tickets are the ones who can afford to buy bars of chocolate every day. Our Charlie gets only 1 a year. There isn't a hope. Chapter 6. The First 2 Finders. The very next day, the first golden ticket was found. The finder was a boy called Augustus, and Mr. Bucket's evening newspaper carried a large picture of him on the front page. The picture showed a 9-year-old boy who was so fat he looked as though he had been blown up with a powerful pump. The town in which Augustus lived, the newspaper said, had gone wild with excitement over their hero. Flags were flying from all the windows, children had been given a holiday from school, and a parade was being organized in honors of the famous youth. I just knew Augustus would find a golden ticket, his mother had told the newspapermen. He eats so many bars of chocolate a day that it was almost impossible for him not to find one. Eating is his hobby, you know. That's all he's interested in. But still, that's better than being a hooligan, isn't it? What a thrill it will be for him to visit Mr. Wonka's marvelous factory. We're so proud of him. What a revolting woman, said Grandma Josephine. And what a repulsive boy, said Grandma Georgina. Only 4 golden tickets left, said Grandpa George. I wonder who'll get those. And now the whole country, Indeed, the whole world seemed to be caught up in a mad chocolate buying spree. Everybody was searching frantically for those precious tickets. Fully grown women were seen going into sweet shops and buying 10 Wonka bars at a time. Children were taking hammers and smashing their piggy banks and running out to the shops with handfuls of money. In one city, a famous gangster robbed a bank of £1,000 and spent all the money on Wonka bars. And when the police entered his house to arrest him, they found him sitting on the floor amidst mountains of chocolate, ripping off wrappers with a long knife. In far-off Russia, a woman called Charlotte Russe claimed that she found the second ticket, but it turned out to be a clever fake. The famous English scientist, Professor Falbody, invented a machine which would tell you at once, without opening the wrapper of a bar of chocolate, whether or not there was a golden ticket underneath it. The machine had a mechanical arm that grabbed anything that had the slightest bit of gold inside it, and for a moment, it looked like the answer to everything. But unfortunately, while the professor was showing off the machine to the public at the sweet counter of a large department store, the mechanical arm shot out and made a grab for the gold filling in the back tooth of a duchess who was standing nearby. There was an ugly scene, and the machine was smashed by the crowd. Suddenly, on the day before Charlie Bucket's birthday, the newspapers announced that the second golden ticket had been found. The lucky person was a small girl called Veruca Salt who lived with her rich parents in a great city far away. Once again Mr. Bucket's evening newspaper carried a big picture of the finder. She was sitting between her smiling father and mother in the living room of their house, waving the golden ticket above her head, and grinning from ear to ear. Veruca's father, Mr. Salt, had explained to the newspapermen exactly how the ticket was found. "You see, boys," he had said, "as soon as my little girl told me that she simply must have one of those golden tickets, I went out into the town and started buying up all the Wonka bars. Probably, I bought thousands of them. Hundreds of thousands. Then I had them loaded onto trucks and sent directly to my own factory. I'm in the peanut business, you see, and I've got about 100 women working for me over at my place, shelling peanuts for roasting and salting. That's what they do all day long, those women, they sit there shelling peanuts. So I said to them, okay, girls, I said, from now on, you can stop shelling peanuts and start shelling the wrappers off these chocolate bars instead. And they did. Every worker in the place was ripping the paper off those bars of chocolate from morning till night. But 3 days went by, and we had no luck. Oh, it was terrible. My little Veruca got more and more upset each day, and every time I went home she would scream at me, "Where's my golden ticket? I want my golden ticket." And she would lie for hours on the floor, kicking and yelling. Well, I just hated to see my little girl feeling unhappy like that, so I vowed would go on with the search until I'd got her what she wanted. Then suddenly, on the evening of the 4th day, one of my women workers yelled, "I've got it. A golden ticket." And I said, "Give it to me, quick," and she did, and I rushed home and gave it to my darling Veruca, and now she's all smiles, and we have a happy home once again. "That's even worse than the fat boy," said Grandma Josephine. "She needs a really good spanking," said Grandma Georgina. "I don't think the girl's father played it quite fair, Grandpa, do you?" Charlie murmured. "He spoils her," Grandpa Joe said. "And no good can ever come from spoiling a child like that, Charlie, you mark my words." "Come to bed, my darling," said Charlie's mother. "Tomorrow's your birthday, don't forget that, so I expect you'll be up early to open your present." "A Wonka chocolate bar," cried Charlie. "It is a Wonka bar, isn't it?" Yes, my love, his mother said. Of course it is. Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if I found the third golden ticket inside it? Charlie said. Bring it in here when you get it, Grandpa Joe said. Then we can all watch you taking off the wrapper. Chapter 7. Charlie's Birthday. Happy birthday, cried the four old grandparents, as Charlie came into their room early the next morning. Charlie smiled nervously and sat down on the edge of the bed. He was holding his present, his only present, very carefully in his two hands. It was Wonka's bar of chocolate. The four old people, two at either end of the bed, looked with anxious eyes at the bar of chocolate in Charlie's hands. Mr. and Mrs. Bucket came in and stood, watching Charlie. The room became silent. Everybody was waiting now for Charlie to start opening his present. Charlie looked down at the bar of chocolate. He ran his fingers slowly back and forth along the length of it, stroking it lovingly. Then Mrs. Bucket said gently, "You mustn't be too disappointed, my darling, if you don't find what you're looking for underneath that wrapper. You really can't expect to be as lucky as all that." "She's quite right," Mr. Bucket said. Charlie didn't say anything. After all, Grandma Josephine said, in the whole wide world there are only 3 tickets left to be found. The thing to remember, Grandma Georgina said, is that whatever happens, you'll still have the bar of chocolate. Yes, Charlie whispered. I know. Just forget all about those golden tickets and enjoy the chocolate, Grandpa Joe said. Why don't you do that? They all knew it was ridiculous to expect this one poor little bar of chocolate to have a magic ticket inside it, and they were trying as gently and as kindly as they could to prepare Charlie for the disappointment. But there was one other thing that the grown-ups also knew. However small the chance might be of striking lucky, the chance was there. The chance had to be there. This particular bar of chocolate had as much chance as any other of having a golden ticket. And that was why all the grandparents and parents in the room were actually just as tense and excited as Charlie was, although they were pretending to be very calm. You'd better go ahead and open it up, or you'll be late for school, Grandpa Joe said. Open it, my dear, Grandma Georgina said. Please open it. You're making me jumpy. Very slowly, Charlie's fingers began to tear open one small corner of the wrapping paper. The old people in the bed all leaned forward. Then suddenly, as though he couldn't bear the suspense any longer, Charlie tore the wrapper right down the middle, and onto his lap there fell a light brown bar of chocolate. There was no sign of a golden ticket anywhere. Well, that's that, said Grandpa Joe brightly. It's just what we expected. Charlie looked up. 4 kind old faces were watching him intently from the bed. He smiled at them, a small sad smile, and then he shrugged his shoulders and picked up the chocolate bar and held it out to his mother, and said, Here, Mother, have a bit. We'll share it. I want everybody to taste it. Certainly not, his mother said. And the others all cried, No, no. We wouldn't dream of it. It's all yours. Please, begged Charlie, turning round and offering it to Grandpa Joe. But neither he nor anyone else would take even a tiny bit. It's time to go to school, my darling, Mrs. Bucket said, putting an arm around Charlie's skinny shoulders. Come on, or you'll be late. Chapter 8. 2 more golden tickets found. That evening, Mr. Bucket's newspaper announced the finding of not only the 3rd golden ticket, but the 4th as well. "All right," said Grandpa Joe, when the whole family was gathered in the old people's room after supper. "Let's hear who found them." "The third ticket," read Mr. Bucket, holding the newspaper up close to his face because his eyes were bad and he couldn't afford glasses. "The third ticket was found by a Miss Violet Beauregard." There was great excitement in the Beauregard household when our reporter arrived to interview the lucky young lady. The famous girl was standing on a chair in the living room waving the golden ticket madly as though she were stopping a taxi. She was talking very fast and very loudly to everyone, but it was not easy to hear all that she said because she was chewing a piece of gum at the same time. "I'm a gum chewer, normally," she shouted, "but when I heard about these ticket things of Mr. Wonka's, I gave up gum and started on chocolate bars in the hope of striking lucky. Now, of course, I'm back on gum. I just adore gum. I can't do without it. I chew it all day long except for a few minutes at mealtimes when I take it out and stick it behind my ear for safekeeping. To tell you the truth, I simply won't feel comfortable if I don't have that little piece of gum to chew on every moment of the day. I really won't. My mother says it's not ladylike and it looks ugly to see a girl's jaws going up and down like mine do all the time, but I don't agree. And who's she to criticize, anyway? Because if you ask me, I'll say that her jaws are going up and down almost as much as mine are just from yelling at me every minute of the day." "Now, Violet," Mrs. Beauregard said from a far corner of the room where she was standing on the piano not to be smashed by the mob. "All right, Mother, keep your hair on," Miss Beauregard shouted. "And now," she went on, turning to the reporters again, "it may interest you to know that this piece of gum I'm chewing right at this moment is one I've been working on for over 3 months. That's a record. It's beaten the record held by my best friend, Miss Cornelia Prinzmittel. And she was so furious. And this piece of gum is my most treasured possession now. At night time, I just stick it on the end of the bedpost, and it's as good as ever in the mornings. Before I started chewing for the world record, I used to change my piece of gum once a day. I used to do it in our lift on the way home from school." "Why the lift?" "Because I liked sticking the gum that I'd just finished to one of the buttons. Then the next person who came along and pressed the button got my old gum on the end of his or her finger. Ha ha! And what a racket some of them kicked up. You get the best results with women who have expensive gloves on. Oh yes, I'm thrilled to be going to Mr. Wonka's factory. And I understand that afterwards he's going to give me enough gum to last me for the rest of my whole life. Whoopee! Hooray! Beastly girl," said Grandma Josephine. Despicable, said Grandma Georgina. "And who got the 4th golden ticket?" Charlie asked. "Now, let me see," said Mr. Bucket, peering at the newspaper again. "Ah yes, here we are. The 4th golden ticket," he read, "was found by a boy called Mike TV. The TV household was full of excited visitors like all the others when our reporter arrived, but young Mike TV, the lucky winner, seemed extremely annoyed by the whole business. "Can't you fools see I'm watching television?" he said angrily. "Don't you interrupt." The 9-year-old boy was sitting before an enormous television set, with his eyes glued to the screen, and was watching a film in which one bunch of gangsters was shooting up another bunch of gangsters with machine guns. Mike TV himself had no less than 18 toy pistols of various sizes hanging from belts around his body, and every now and again he would leap up into the air and fire off half a dozen rounds from one or another of these weapons. "Quiet," he shouted, when someone tried to ask him a question. "Didn't I tell you not to interrupt?" This show's terrific. I watch it every day. I watch all of them every day, even the rotten ones, where there's no shooting. I like the gangsters best. They're terrific, those gangsters. Especially when they start pumping each other full of lead. Gosh, what wouldn't I give to be doing that myself? It's the life, I tell you. It's terrific. That's quite enough, snapped Grandma Josephine. I can't bear to listen to it. Nor me, said Grandma Georgina. Do all children behave like this nowadays, like these brats we've been hearing about? Of course not, said Mr. Bucket, smiling at the old lady in the bed. Some do, of course. In fact, quite a lot of them do. But not all. And now there's only one ticket left, said Grandpa George. Quite so, sniffed Grandma Georgina. And just as sure as I'll be having cabbage soup for supper tomorrow, that ticket will go to some nasty little beast who doesn't deserve it.